This is ET. Diseases, as the world is discovering now, in this year of 2022, Anno Domini, can dramatically alter whole civilizations. But most outbreaks of disease tend to operate in a smaller way, in more locally confined areas, becoming epidemics as opposed to pandemics. But nonetheless, they can be instrumental in determining where people live or where they move away from. One example recently in the U.S. would be when malaria waves hit the Midwestern part of the country, and sizable groups of people had to migrate to a hostile yet more healthy desert west. The most famous historical illnesses were of the transmittable kind, bacterial, viral, and occasionally fungal. Others were caused by parasites or poisons. And one famous example was the milk sick, also known as the trembles, or the slows, or the puking fever, or simply as having the tires. This often proved fatal or left a patient sick for months, maybe a lifetime. The milk sick was known to be associated with drinking milk or eating the flesh from an animal that had ingested the white snake root. It took some time after a lot of people got sick that they figured out that it was the snake root. It's a weed that infested pioneer pastures, and it contained a poison. Now, that poison would not be identified until the 1920s as trematol. The symptoms of milk sick were acute: whitish coat on the tongue, severe pain in the gut, projectile vomiting, constipation, freezing sense on the extremities, and severe restlessness. But later on, the tongue would be coated dark brown. Countenance would be dejected. The disease usually proved fatal between 2.5 and 14 days. William Herndon was Abraham Lincoln's law partner and biographer, and he wrote that the milksick hit Lincoln's boyhood community of Pigeon Creek, Indiana, around 1818, when Lincoln was about age 9, and the disease remained in the area for about a decade. One man, Herndon reports, lost 4 milk cows and 11 calves in 1 week. Then he took off for parts further west. The milk sick proved fatal among Lincoln's kin, not just the Lincolns, but the Hanks and the Sparrows. Tom and Betsy Sparrows died within days of each other. Thomas Lincoln, Abraham Lincoln's father, was the undertaker, and he whipsawed cut-out lumber and nailed together a very crude coffin, then another. And he saw to it that the bodies were buried on a cleared knoll in the middle of a forest. There was no ceremony. Nancy Hanks Lincoln, Abraham's mother, suffered for a week with the milk sick, while Lincoln and his sister Sarah waited on her and did jobs and errands. The nearest doctor was 35 miles away. Now, Nancy Hanks Lincoln knew she was going to die. She called the children to her bedside. She put a feeble hand, according to Herndon, onto Lincoln's head, and she told him to be kind and good to his father and his sister, and to love his kindred, and to worship the Lord. Lincoln, after the death of his mother, was living a fairly dreary life, even by standards of the day. The cabin had no floor, and it was scantily protected from the weather. Abe Lincoln's father, Thomas Lincoln, mourned, as was custom, for about a year. then headed out to Elizabethtown in Kentucky, and he found a woman that he knew, Sally Bush, widow of one Daniel Johnston. Johnston had been jailer in, I think it was Hardin County. Correct me if I'm wrong. He had died several years before of what was identified as the cold plague. Now, years before, Thomas Lincoln had been Sally Bush's suitor, but she had rejected him for Johnston. Well, now that they get married, Tom Lincoln and Sally Bush, the union would be a blessing for Abe and his sister. And that's it. Oh, and one more thing about the milk sick. It was discovered later that raw whiskey, often used as a general remedy for many ailments of the day, actually proved somewhat helpful against the milk sick, as it could neutralize the poison, although apparently not many were saved by this treatment. Okay, that is it. This is E.T. If you enjoyed the video, hit the thumbs up icon. YouTube likes that and will make available more of these videos to more people. Also, you see the bell icon, hit that. You'll be notified of new uploads. If you would, share these videos on social media. Thank you.